With all the talk about fasting, with all of the benefits that we hear about fasting, are there any drawbacks? Are there any side effects to fasting? And that's what we're talking about here tonight. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. That's right. I am talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to get off of diabetes medications. In fact, who want to reverse, that's right, reverse their diabetes. If you're new to me as well, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that we are happy that you are here in this space. If you do have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat, in the comments. Put a Q in front of them so we know that that's a question that we need to get to as we move into our space. And hey, I am right now 25 hours, 24 plus hours into my fasting for this week. As you know, we do a 72-hour fasting once a week, and it is a tool that we use, that I teach in order to help reverse diabetes. There are so many tools that we've learned in the process of moving in this direction to be metabolically healthy and to put our diabetes in remission. But we're not just talking about diabetes, we're talking about all of those metabolic diseases because diabetes is the prototypic metabolic disease. But this process will work also for all of those other diseases, right? So we're talking about whether it's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, coronary artery disease, and on and on and on. If you're out there and you suffer from one of these, guess what? Yeah, this process is going to work. It's going to work for you. So make sure that you're paying attention. If you've not already done so, go ahead and get over to our one of our playlists because we've been walking through the process of reversing. In fact, on the YouTube channel, there is a playlist that's called How to Reverse Diabetes. And then, of course, there's one that's called How to Fast Successfully because that's what we're doing here tonight. Our show normally, I shouldn't say our normally, but our Dwain Woode MD Live is on Mondays at 7 o'clock. And we've been walking through this process. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. And this is just a continuation as we work into the new year, new you method, the new year, new you process. So make sure that you take a look at those. If you're just joining us, there's a whole list that we have, and you want to make sure that you get there so that you can come up to speed. And don't think that you are behind. Okay, sometimes people catch us at this place and they say, "Oh my goodness, they are now. It's now August. I'm so far behind." No. We say start where you are, and I'll address that here in just a little bit further as we move into the rest of the evening. So, if you're here with us, you know how we do what we do when we do, right? So I've got my monitors over here that we're going to be taking a look at in just a minute. Right down below, you'll see my Dexcom. That's my Dexcom Clarity Report. We'll take a look at blood sugars, and we will walk into that process. But let me do quickly here a shout out because I see at least one of our community members that's out there right now. So Steve, he said, let's let the good times roll. What's going on, man? Says Steve, thank you for coming through. Thank you for being here with us. And those of you who may be out there, if you whatever platform you're on, if you're watching us right now on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitch, and of course here on YouTube, I welcome you to the show. Make sure just drop a line, say hello, let us know what's going on. So here's the question for tonight. Have you fasted over the past month? Right, so we'll do. So this is August. So have you fasted over the last month? Right. If you have, go ahead and pop it in the chat. Say yes, I fasted, and also put a comma, so yes, comma, and put the longest fast that you've done over the course of this past month. Longest fast that you've done over the course of the past month. So I'm gonna hop over and I'm gonna put in. So I'm gonna put in yes. Let's see. I'm gonna put in yes. And over the course of this month, the longest fast that I've done is actually a 96-hour fast. If you remember back maybe a month ago or so, we did a little bit over 100-hour, but just 96 now. So if you fasted over the past month, but yes, and then 96 or whatever number of hours that you fasted, I want you to pop that in there, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to hop over and do a check-in. Right, so check-in, and this is the place where I spend some time talking about how I'm feeling as I'm moving through the fasting, right? So talk about physically, mentally, and emotionally, because these are the three components where often people will run into trouble, right? Physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now, we're going to talk here in a minute about and let me just pop that flyer up really quickly. We're going to talk about side effects of fasting. Side effects of fasting. But right now, I just want to do a check-in to let you know where I am in these areas as I'm going through the fast. And so, yeah, right now at little over 24-hour fast in terms of physical, right? So how am I feeling physically? I am actually feeling pretty good. Last night, I got a good night's sleep. I'm well rested. I don't feel lightheaded, sweaty, dizzy. As you know, those are some of the things that people will say that they feel. I have to say that, and if you've been watching over the last several days, right? You know, we came back from a camping trip last week, and so I have been actually trying to initiate my fast. Because I was planning to do a longer fast this week, but over the course of the last several days, I've been feeling a little bit more nauseated than I did in the past. Okay, so for instance, last night I had gone 24 hours because I mentioned to you on our show on Monday that I was at a 24-hour fast, and then I broke that fast because I was feeling nauseated. And then I went into another fast, and so last night was 24 hours, and I broke it right at about 25 hours because I was feeling nauseated. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. So this time, I'm not feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, did not feel weak or tired, but I did have a little bit more nausea than normal, okay? And we'll as like I said, I'll mention more about that in just a second. All right, so that's physically. Mentally, I'm feeling clear. I'm not feeling sluggish. I'm not feeling dull. My mentation is good. I think a lot of that has to do with me getting rest over the last several days, right? Because I've not been up last week before, preparing for the camping trip. Last week, of course, on the camping trip, staying up late at night. And then this week, really kind of getting back home and getting into bed and getting better rest. Now, it is a place that I still got to work on, right? Because you guys know that I'm still up late at night. So that is, of the things that I've got to work on, that is probably one of the biggest one of the primary ones that I need to work on to make sure that I am taking care of that aspect of my personal care, okay, of my self-care. All right, so mentally, and then emotionally, this, you know, kind of regrouping after getting back and getting into the office, and you know, there's some things going on, some changes that we have in the office. And so, you know, this has been not an emotionally roller coaster week, but I can tell that I'm a little bit more on edge than I have been over the last several weeks, and of course in other fasts. So a little bit more on edge. Let me say it that way. Okay. So physically, mentally, and emotionally, always want to make sure that we check in on those so that we let you know how I'm doing. And so if you fasted, what is which area, physically, mentally, and emotionally, which area do you tend to find that you have the most challenge? Okay? And you may not say, oh, it's not difficult, but which area gives you the most challenge? Is it the physical, the mental, or the emotional? Go ahead and pop those in the chat. And I'm going to actually put two. I know I told you one, but I'm going to put two. I'm going to put physical and emotional. And I'm putting those two because, as you know, when we talk about the heat model, right, those triggers, then mine tends to be EAT, emotions, access, and taste. And so those emotions are a big deal for me. And of course, physical, because of what I do and the time that I'm up here in this space. So I'm going to drop those over there. So physical and emotional. Okay. All right, so let's see. So Steve is saying that he did a 36-hour fast, and so that's in response to my question about fasting this month. So he said he did a 36-hour fast, and his blood sugar is 114, and glucose is 1.4. So very good. Hey, Steve, let me give you a hand clap and some music. Okay. All right. So now let's hop over and let's take a look at what my blood sugars are. And so here is my Libre. My Libre is saying that my blood sugar right now is 83. And you'll see there for most of today, it's been south of 150, maybe 125. And we'll take a look at actual numbers when I do my Dexcom report. The Libre doesn't allow me to do that on the report. But that's what my Libre is saying right now. And this is the Libre 3. This is the Libre 3. As you know, Libre, there was the 14-day, and then the Libre 2, Libre 3. And actually, they now have the Libre 3 Plus, I believe is what it's called. And then here is my Dexcom. And the Dexcom is saying right now my blood sugar is 99. What do you think my ketones are going to be? What do you think my ketones are going to be? So let's hop over and let's take a look at, so here are my other monitors. So here's my Keto Mojo, and as you know, the Keto Mojo will give me both glucose and ketones. I've got my Contour. I've got some strips down here for ketones and blood sugar. Got my Lancets, and of course, here are the Lancets, not Lancets, but here are the strips for the Contour. So let's go ahead and let's get that started. Okay. Let's see. So let's get a strip out. Pop that one in here. So this is the Contour. And then I'm going to start, of course, like I always do, with the blood sugar for the Keto Mojo. And as I'm doing this, I do see Teresa popping in. Hey, Teresa, one of our other community members. And she's saying, I'll pop that up on the screen here in just a minute. My hands are tied up. She's saying that the physical is the one that gives her the most challenge. And that's in response to my question about in the check-in, physical, mental, or emotional. Which one is the most challenging? And so I'm going to grab one of our strips. And of course, as you know, these are one-use strips. You take that top off, and it is spring-loaded. So you press this lever right here, and it will pop the Lancet up and give a little poke. So let's hop over to this view. And I'm going to go ahead and bring it up so you can hear it. Okay, and so you should have heard that. Hopefully I got a good finger stick there and got a good drop of blood. And okay, yeah, there it is. So good drop of blood. As you know, if you don't get a good poke, then you get a drop, but maybe not enough that you need to actually run and get a blood sugar. All right, so the Keto Mojo says 86, and the Contour here in just a minute is going to say 81. And I'm going to go ahead while I'm talking and get this strip out, because if I don't, then this drop of blood is going to dry and I won't be able to do the ketone, and I'll have to poke myself again, which I don't want to do. So let's go ahead and let's get that started. Okay, so there we are. Okay, and of course I'm going to let that start, but I'm not going to show you what it is. Yeah, because I know I always tease you guys. All right, so what do you think? What do you think it's going to be? What do you think it's going to be? I'm going to move it off the screen because sometimes I'll go to the scene and you'll see it on the screen there. Okay, all right. So let's see. So Teresa said, and let me go back, Teresa, and let's bring this on. So Teresa says, "Hello, doctor." And everyone, and she says that physical, so sometimes she's tired. And then of course Steve says physical, I have weak feeling, he feels weak at times. Yeah, so probably the biggest place that people will see issues isn't it, well, I should say probably in one of those areas, right? So in one of those areas is where it usually happens. Okay, all right, so we'll come back and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. For now, let's hop over and let's talk. Okay, so fasting is an amazing thing that happens, right? So we have co-opted fasting as an amazing tool in terms of health. It has been used for a long time, as we've talked about, in other shows, for spiritual rituals, for religious reasons, for cultural things. But here in this space, and in a lot of spaces that you will see nowadays, fasting has become this amazing tool that people are using for getting themselves into a better position for wellness. Okay, so for wellness, and we've been doing here on the channel about 72 hours. We've done more in the past. We've done less as part of our non-fasting days, right? So I do intermittent fasting on days when I'm not like doing my extended fast. And so fasting is this thing that we're using. So what is fasting? Fasting, once again, is that voluntary, right? So voluntary abstention from food and or drink for a specified period. And that's what we've been using. That's the definition that we've been using here in our space. And so while fasting has all of these benefits, right? So we talk about weight management and fat loss, improved insulin sensitivity. That's a big one, right? Because here in this diabetes space, that's one of the things that we say, hey, we want to make sure that we're doing that, right? Because remember the pillars: decrease insulin, suppress appetite, reduce sugar, right? There it is. So we want to make sure that we're, so fasting is a tool for improving our insulin sensitivity. It also is good for enhancing cellular repair, right? As we get further and further into the fasting, we've talked about immunity and so forth. Stimulating autophagy. Autophagy is that process that the body goes through in terms of recycling and reclaiming. Reducing inflammation, right? So once again, back to the immunity, and then better heart health. As we've talked about metabolic disease, right? We always throw up coronary artery disease. That's a big one. So heart health. So better heart health. Improving brain function. We've talked about neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis and on and on and on. And then, of course, longevity and anti-aging. Fasting has been shown, right? And we did a show about that. About improving our mental clarity and focus, as I've talked about before. As we get into those first several hours and we get into the ketosis, then you get this mental clarity. And so when I do my check-in and I'm talking about the mental part, that's why a lot of times I'm not feeling foggy, I'm not feeling lightheaded, I'm not feeling dizzy, I'm not feeling dull or sluggish, right? Because you get that mental clarity. And of course, better digestion. We're going to be talking about digestion here in a minute. And then hormonal regulation. Because during the fasting process, as we've talked about how to prepare for the fast, if you remember one of our most recent check-ins, we talked about how high blood sugars, as a matter of fact, we talked about this on Monday during our show. We talked about how blood sugars will have adverse effects on different hormones in the body. So fasting has these amazing things that it does, right? And we've just listed 10 of those right there. However, we want to make sure that we understand that with the popularity of fasting, there are some things that we want to be mindful of. Okay, I want to be mindful of. And I don't want to list these on under caution, but they're things that we need to keep in mind as we are going through the fasting process. And so that's what we're talking about today, is what are some of the side effects, right? And sometimes side effects, when we say the phrase side effects, it connotates negativity, but it is, for instance, weight loss is a side effect of certain medications that are out there right now. We'll mention at least a couple of them here in just a little while. Okay? All right. But the three big ones that I want to talk about, right? So of all the things that possibly can happen, and you know, we've done a show about the myths about fasting. So things like dehydration, right? Obviously can happen. Things like if you're not careful, you can have some electrolyte imbalances. All those types of things can happen. But we're not going to list all of those, but there are three big ones, practical ones, y'all. And why do I pick these three? Because they're three that I've seen personally. Yeah. The three that I've seen personally. Okay, so this is okay. There are a whole bunch of them, but what are some practical things that we want to talk about as it comes to the fasting space that we want to make sure that we are mindful of? And number one, bad breath. All right, so bad breath. Number two, constipation, and then number three, other GI issues, and we'll kind of walk through those together. So bad breath. What is bad breath? Bad breath is called halitosis. Halitosis. And it is common but often overlooked side effect of fasting. So we talk about all the other things, right? We talk about all the benefits and so forth. And tonight I just really wanted to spend some time talking about what are some things that you're going to see? And this came about, of course, as I mentioned, that there are things that I've experienced personally. And as I talk to people who are in the fasting process, people who are going through this with us, you know, they're asking questions. They say, okay, I'm having this issue. And so I thought this was a great time for us to address some of those. So what causes bad breath? What causes bad breath during fasting? Number one is ketones and acetone. Ketones and acetone production. So when the body switches from burning glucose, burning carbohydrates, it switches over to burning fat. And as a part of fat, the burning of fat, it creates ketones. And we've been lauding ketones as this amazing energy source that the body has access to. And let me give you an example or a analogy for ketones. So think about your car. And this is not a one of those hybrid cars. We're talking about a gas car. Okay? So the car burns the gas as fuel, right, to keep the car going. And then it converts as a process, as a part of burning the gas. There's exhaust that comes out, right? So ketones really are a form of exhaust that's coming from burning fat. Now, in the body is able to use a part of that. Those are we talk about ketones. There's one called acetone, right? That the liver converts some of the fats to, right? So the liver produces acetone. And acetone is a gaseous substance that comes out in either, I say gaseous, but it's a substance that comes out either through the breath or comes out through your urine. So if you know of anybody who's been in DKA, or if you're a type 1 diabetic and people talk about DKA, one of the things that we say is you can smell it on the breath. And so those are the acetones and the ketones that are being produced that now you're able to smell on a person's breath. So the first reason why there is bad breath during fasting is that the body has switched from burning carbohydrates. It's now burning fat, but as a part of the process of burning fat, it's creating these ketones, and one of the ketones can cause that breath, that smell that we get in terms of bad breath. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when we fast, often we can become dehydrated. And when we become dehydrated, right, the saliva that's normally being produced is not produced as much. Also, because we're not eating, there's decreased saliva as well. And that decreased saliva or saliva in the mouth has a function. One of the functions of saliva in the mouth is those enzymes and all of the stuff that's in the saliva. We won't go through all of those. They help to kill bacteria that's in the mouth. Well, if I've decreased the saliva, then guess what? Those bacteria that's in the mouth, they're having a heyday. They're like, yay, right? We're having a good time. And so they begin to proliferate. And so that bacteria produces a smell. So one, we've got the ketones. Number two, we have decreased production of saliva for several reasons, as I've mentioned. And because of that, the bacteria can proliferate, and the bacteria has a way of what? Of producing a smell. And then there's breakdown of protein in the body, because now the body is not using carbohydrates, so it's using fat, and it's also breaking down some protein. When it breaks down protein, right, the nitrogen that's in the protein, and which is normally there, that's a normal process, by the way, right? That's normal for in the body. It's not abnormal. But when it breaks down the protein, the nitrogen is being released, and because the nitrogen is being released, it adds to, right, and it's normally, nitrogen comes out in either gas or the urine, or in some other places as well, but that adds now to the smell that we get on the breath. So 3 reasons. So the ketones, right? We talked about acetones. Number 2, the decreased saliva that's being produced, and that allows proliferation of bacteria. There's some other things that happens as a result of that as well, but those are the main ones. And then, of course, the ketones that are being broken down and the nitrogen that's being released. So what causes bad breath? There you are. So what can you do? What can you do about bad breath during fasting? Right? So what can you do about bad breath during fasting? Because that's ultimately the question. What do I do? A big one is staying hydrated, right? And you've heard me talk about hydration in lots of different phases as we talk about fasting. So when we're hydrated, first of all, we can get more production of saliva. The hydration or the fluid that's in our body will wash out some of the ketones. That's why it's important to hydrate during one of the reasons it's important to hydrate during fasting, because it washes out the ketones. It washes out some of that nitrogen that's being produced when we're breaking down the protein. Okay. Number 2, you want to maintain good oral hygiene, right? Making sure you're brushing, making sure you're flossing, particularly during the time when you are fasting, right? Because we already know that that your mouth is set up to be in the phase of bad breath. The next thing is you can chew some sugar-free gum or mints. Now this one, and I'm going to step out here for just a minute because I want to show you something. Okay, I'm going to pop back over here for just a minute. So I'm going to grab something from my bag. I wasn't planning to do that, but hopefully it's there. All right, yeah. So you can chew gum, you can chew mints, right? Now in the fasting process, one of the cautions you want to be mindful of is something that happened to me, right? So I didn't say it happened, but I guess it did happen. So I was thinking about electrolytes, right, as I was hydrating. And so I went out and I got some, let's see, do I have that bottle over here? I went out and I got some Gatorade Zero. And so I started drinking it, and I noticed that my blood sugars were going up, right? So Gatorade Zero has what in it? It has some carbs in it. And I went and in the same process of talking about bad breath, I went out and I bought. Let me see. I'm gonna pop over. Let's see. How do I get you to see this? Let's take a look at. Let's do this one. Yeah, let's do this one. So I went out and I bought these guys, right? And notice that it says. Let's see. Where is it? Can you see it says sugar-free? It says that on there somewhere. Anyway, so it's sugar-free, and I didn't really look at it, the package, and then I flipped it over, and I noticed right here. Let's see. Let me do it this way. Let's see. Let's do this one. Okay, I'm gonna hold it up. Okay. Can you guys see? Yeah. How many calories does it have? Yeah, I think you could probably see that. But anyway, so it says it has less than 5 calories per serving, which means that there are calories. Right? So less than 5 means calories. And so there are calories in it. So what you want to do is if you're going to chew gum or eat mints, then you want to make sure that if it's during the fasting period, that it's not interrupting your fast. Is essentially the whole point, right? So I wasn't careful, and in fact, when I broke my fast, was it last night or the night before? Part of the reason was that I got the Gatorade Zero, and I drank it, intending fully to continue the fast, but once I drank it, so my blood sugar started going up. I had, the fast had been broken, it had been interrupted, so I said, hey, I can eat. No, sorry. All right, so that's one. So chew sugar-free gum or mints. Consider your diet during eating windows, right? So during the eating times, if you are careful to incorporate a lot, fiber into your diet and not eating a lot of highly processed, highly sugary foods, then that will help with the bad breath during the time when you are fasting. Okay, and there are some natural remedies. We won't go through all of those here, but chewing mint, for example, some people say you can do that. Even if you're using some herbal teas, that will help with breath. And of course, monitor and adjust your fasting protocol. So maybe the fast that you're doing, right? Because as you fast longer, sometimes you can have more ketones produced. And so if you have a particularly significant issue with bad breath, then maybe you need to shorten your fasting window. That may be an option. And then of course, get medical advice if it persists. So it is something that you can something that should resolve, that you can do something about in terms of oral hygiene and so forth. But if you're doing all those things and it's still persisting, then it may be time to get some medical assistance and say, hey, what can I do, or what's going on? How do I deal with that? Okay. So bad breath, one of the side effects of fasting. And let's see. So, I see another one of our community members hopped in. And so let's see. Here it is. Hey, so Jennifer said, howdy, y'all. Hey, Jennifer, what's up? Steve saying, hello, Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer from Teresa. And Teresa said, my job provides mouthwash, luckily. There you go. Now, one of the things with mouthwash is you want to make sure, or you want to be careful. I should say make sure. You want to be careful that the mouthwash that you use doesn't have a lot of alcohol in it, because alcohol will dry out the mouth, and that sets you up for for persisting. Okay, all right. And Teresa says she's laughing on breaking the fast on accident. Yeah. Yeah, I was annoyed for Teresa. I was annoyed. I was, well, actually a little bit more than annoyed, right? Because I was like, man, I didn't, because I got them and I didn't even look at the label, because I saw the 0 on it, And of course, as you guys have known now, just because it says 0 doesn't necessarily mean anything. In fact, the 0 that was on it was supposed to be 0 calories, not necessarily 0 carbs, right? And then Jennifer says, for electrolytes, I like sugar-free liquid IV. So Jennifer, is it sugar-free? Because there's a difference between sugar-free and 0 sugar, right? So for instance, there are things that will say sugar-free that actually has less than 1% sugar, but 0 sugar means absolutely no sugar at all. So just one of the points that you want to be careful of. Okay, all right. So that's talking about the breath. So the next one that we want to talk about is what causes constipation. Constipation during fasting, and constipation is a big issue. And let me pop over because I want to add something else in here. So a lot of people are on GLP-1s. That is things like Mounjaro, Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, and on and on and on, right? So I'm not going to name all of that. And Victoza and B-Size, which are GLP-1s, they don't have the same notoriety as the other guys. And I have been on GLP-1s, okay? In fact, when GLP-1s first came out, this was not for weight management, but when they first came out for diabetes, for managing of blood sugar, my doctors kept trying to put me on them. I could never use them because of constipation, right? Significant constipation. And so as we got better products, that's when I decided, okay, I was going to use them. And as you know, that was one of the things that I used initially. The constipation, y'all, has been like out of this world. Okay? And so one of the reasons that I got off of them, in addition to the benefit of the fasting, was that the constipation was horrendous. And in fact, I still have constipation now. Now this is, partially due to the fact that I'm fasting. But if you're out there and you have been and you are using GLPs, one of the things you want to make sure is that you are listening to this part, but also making sure that you are taking care of your bowel habits, okay? Because that can become a significant issue. So what causes constipation during fasting? Number one, reduce food intake. So if you're not putting things in, then things move more slowly. Okay? If you're on one of the GLPs, one of the ways they work is that they slow the GI tract in the first place. So we've got that on board if you're on one of those medications. And then you're not taking anything in, so your GI tract is naturally slower than normal. So you may feel that as constipation. The next one is dehydration. Because if you are not drinking, so first of all, I think things are slower because you're not eating. If you're not drinking, then the things that are already in the GI tract, they are slower and they absorb more liquid, and so the stool becomes harder as it moves through the colon. Okay? Right? Right? So it's harder. The other thing is that you have changed your gut motility. Because whether you're doing an intermittent fasting, or you're doing an alternate day fasting, or you're doing 1 meal a day fasting, or you're doing extended fasting, you're altering the motility, right? Because you're probably used to eating, 3 meals a day, or at least more regularly, and now you're changing the habits that you have, and that changes the motility, and so the body has to get used to that. And then you're altering your eating patterns, right? Going back to altering the motility, right? Because you're changing how you're eating. You're changing the foods that you're eating. Oh, yeah. You guys remember. So we've been talking about what we consider to be a good meal, right? And I don't want to use the word good, but for lack of a better word, a good meal. Remember, whole foods, not a lot of processing, not a lot of sugar, starchy, non-starchy vegetables, a portion size, lean fats, lean protein, healthy fats, and tasty, right? So that's what we're eating, and so that now changes the gut, right? How the gut has to process. So we're making changes that are altering the motility, and that can show up sometimes as constipation. Okay? And then, of course, decreased physical activity. So if you are not, so often when people are fasting, they think they can't exercise, they can't do some of the same things. Maybe they feel a little weak, a little tired, and so they're not as active. And so that also changes motility. Because remember, as you're moving, your body, your GI tract is moving and changing. And if you've decreased that, that also will cause the bowel to not move as easily and as readily, right? So reduced food intake, dehydration, changes in the gut motility, altered eating patterns, and then of course decreased physical activity. All of those would cause issues for us as we talk about the GI tract and constipation. And like I said, for me, it was bad. It was bad. In fact, I still take some stool softeners. And well, actually, let me hop over there and let's talk about that right now. So what are some things that you can do? Right? One, increase the fiber during your eating windows. We talked about that just a little while in terms of changing, improving the breath, right? So increase the fiber. That also works here. Stay hydrated. The more hydrated you are, the less firm the stools will be. Maintain regular physical activity. So keep moving. Don't just hang around the house. Get out there and start moving around. Establish a routine, right? A regular routine so that your body gets used to, okay, this is what we do, this is how we do it. One of the things that people will say to me is that, and this is not necessarily for constipation, they'll say to me, hey, I'm not eating, but now I feel some indigestion. Well, you feel indigestion because your body is used to producing acid for the food that you were putting in, and now you're not putting food in. The body hasn't gotten used to that yet, right? So it has to change. Same thing here. Establish a routine so the body knows. Consider natural laxatives, right? So there are some things that you can use, like Senecot. One of the cautions with Senecot is that it can cause some cramping, right? So there's Miralax that you get over the counter. All of those things, right? Avoid overeating during eating windows. Because when you overeat, now the body has to, right, the brush border, which has been kind of quiescent during the time of fasting, it wakes up. And we're going to see this again in the next section. We're going to talk about other GI issues, right? It wakes up and it starts producing those goblet cells in the GI tract, start producing all this, the mucus to help with lubrication, and that now can cause other issues when you're getting back to fasting. And of course, listen to your body. Listen to your body. If you're going through the process of fasting and you're finding that, hey, this is causing me significant issues, let's pause the fasting. Let's break the fast. Let's interrupt the fast. Let's figure out a method for you to be able to successfully become regular, and then let's get back into the fast. Remember, we're always trying to be healthy. We always want to make sure that we're doing things that putting ourselves up, setting ourselves up for success, and not just doing anything because I gotta fast. I'm going to fast for 72 hours. By God, come hell or high water. Well, no, listen to your body. Your body will tell you where it needs to be and where you should be heading. Okay. All right. Let's see. I do see some. Okay. So Jennifer said about the liquid IV, and she said sweetened with allulose or stevia, it doesn't raise my glucose level. Ah, okay. It doesn't raise your glucose level. So I love that. Now some of the and this gets into the technical, and so you'll hear people in different spaces talk about, hey, even though it doesn't raise your blood sugar, it still has calories because it is, calorie containing and so forth. I love that, Jennifer. I love that. So I would say to folks here, I don't think I've said that before, and I use things that are sweetened, right? So I've got. So let's see. I don't even know what sweetened this. This is my go-to, by the way. All right. So this is my go-to for fasting, and it's zero, right? So zero sugar, and let's see, what is it sweetened with? Okay, I've got to look at it. But yeah, but if you look at the, let's see, there you go. Right, so you could probably get a sense of, let's see, can you see? Maybe not that good, but 0 calories, so on and so forth. And I don't think this has any of those. But I was talking to someone in the office today about different things they can use, so stevia and so forth. So thank you for saying that, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing that. And then Jennifer says, Manjaro makes constipation an issue. If I take a tablespoon of MCT every morning, it keeps things on the slide. I love it. Thank you. Yeah. So I even now, right, when I'm fasting, I've got to take something twice a week. If I do that, then things are regular. Now, and of course, Jennifer, right? So sometimes I'm going along and I'm fasting, and it just goes out of my mind that, hey, this is an issue that's probably going to pop up, and it doesn't even dawn on me until it's, I get into that situation. I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't take my stuff yesterday or the day before or whatever. And I actually use Senecot S, I think is what, or D, as part of what I do. Now, you want to be cautious. You want to be careful with that. And of course, always, as I say, make sure you're touching base with your family physician, right? All right. And then, right, so we talked about breath. We talked about constipation. And then some other GI issues that occur during fasting, okay? And these are things that I will, let's get back over here, sorry. So these are things that I experience as well. And I experience some of these when I am using, so I've gone back to using the tea. So I had gotten away from using this, and I was using 0 sugar carbonated drinks. So I was using, for instance, 0 Dr. Pepper was one that I used. But what I found is that because I'm fasting, my GI tract was not moving as readily, right? And when it doesn't move as readily, now you put this carbonation in, and that caused bloating. It caused gas, right? And some of that carbonation also comes back and, causes a breath issue, okay? So here are some issues that you can find yourselves in when we're talking about fasting. So bloating, gas, indigestion, because remember, if your body's not used to the fact that you're not putting something in there on a regular basis, it's still producing acid, right? Because it's used to having stuff there. That's why people say, oh, my stomach is growling, I got to eat something. Well, growling doesn't mean hungry necessarily. It just means empty. And your body has to get used to that. So nausea. So this is one that I struggled with over the last several days. And I'm hoping that over this next couple of days that it doesn't rear its head. Part of the reason last night was, I think whenever I drink the unsweetened tea, if I drink water, I think the nausea still kind of stays there. But when I drink the unsweetened tea, the nausea seems to subside. And when I was here last night, I didn't have any tea. And so that nausea came up, and it was just like this wave that hit me, and I didn't have this, and so I ended up eating, right, as another thing that pushed me to eat, and so broke that fast. So nausea, and the other thing is diarrhea. So how do I get diarrhea and constipation during fasting? Well, number one, when you're fasting, if you are now slowing the GI tract and things are slowing down, at some point, right, it's going to get to the point where the food that you've eaten days ago is going to still continue to move, even though it's moving slowly. And then when it finally is able, you've got constipation now, and so when you finally are able to pass that, then everything that's upstream of that has to come out. And so it is a cycle of constipation followed by diarrhea. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who suffer from constipation find that that's the case, that it builds, and they finally have an elimination, but then they have diarrhea following that until the constipation happens again. Okay, so constipation happens followed by diarrhea, and then of course abdominal discomfort. And abdominal discomfort can happen for lots of different reasons. One, you're not having regular elimination, so your abdomen can become distended, you're bloating, you're gaseous, right? And here's a great place to make a point. If you're fasting and the goal of fasting is to lose weight, okay, and you ate 2 days ago and you're fasting and you're not eliminating, guess what? Your weight, you're still having the effect of the weight on the food that you ate because you haven't passed it yet. Okay, there's a show that I was talking about to someone here this week that I want to do, and talking about some of those. And these are little minutia things that we don't even think about, right? The fact that I haven't had a bowel movement means that my weight can't change. So people say, my weight hasn't changed. Well, when was the last time you had a bowel movement? Had a guy in the office today. He hadn't had a bowel movement in a week. Right? So all of that is still there, and it's still being counted as weight. Okay, so abdominal discomfort. Slow gut motility, as we talked about before. And then, of course, dehydration-related digestive issues. All of those are things that can show up. And so how do we deal with those? And a lot of it has to do with some things that we've already talked about. Gradually ease into fasting, right? Get on a regular schedule. Don't just jump into fasting. I'm going to do 72 hours. No, let's work our way there. Focus on balanced nutrition, nutritionally dense foods on your eating days. Stay hydrated. Practice mindful eating. Avoid common trigger foods, right? So there are some things that can cause triggers, right? Support your gut health with probiotics and prebiotics during your eating period, and then maintain regular physical activity. Right? So those are the ways that we can help with some of those other GI issues that we will run into. Okay, so let's hop over. What do you think? What do you think my ketones are? Right, so we're 26 hours maybe right now. What do you think it is? Go ahead and pop those in the chat. And let's see, let's hop over. Let's get my strip out. I need to get my Keto Mojo app. And let's go ahead and get that synced. Come on, pop it in. What do you think it's gonna be? Pop it in the chat. 26 hours, 25 plus. I'm not going to say quite 26 yet. Almost 26. All right, it's a scanning and syncing. Hopefully that comes up here in just a minute. Okay, so for some reason it's not wanting to do what I needed to do. Come on. Okay, so we cannot. Let's see. Try. Oh, you know what? I didn't turn it on. Did I turn it on? I don't remember. Okay, so it's on now. Okay, there it is. Scanning. And let's see. Drum roll. Let's see. So Teresa says 0.4. Steve says 0.6. 0.4, 0.6. And the answer is 0.3, y'all. Look at that. Wow. So glucose of 86, ketones of 0.3. So if you remember, when we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and above 1.5 is considered therapeutic ketosis. Okay, so here we are. So on the graph, the tan line that's blood sugar, and the turquoise line down at the bottom, those are ketones. And you see my ketones, when we did our check-in on Monday, my ketones were actually low, right? It didn't even register. And my blood sugar at the time was, what was it? 94. And so now my ketones are up 0.3 blood sugar has gone down to 86. So it'd be interesting to see what these numbers are as we get further into the fast. Okay, and then let's hop over. Let's see. Let's go over here. Yeah, there's my gum. And let's take a look at my report down below. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's do this one. Okay, cool. All right. And so you'll see there average blood sugar over the last 2 weeks, 154. And once again, you guys understand why that's higher. We talked about the carrot cake and the trip and all that. All right. So if I go back to 90 days, you'll see that it's probably about 120 maybe. Okay, 123. And my glucose management indicator, 6.3 if I were to get an A1C right now. 87% of the time I'm in the target range. And let me get my mouse so I can draw on the screen. There we go. All right, so right here, boom, oops, not there, this one. All right, so 70 to 180 is the target range. In target, so average blood sugar 123. And then let's go ahead and let's take a look at our daily graph. And let's point a few things out. So what I want to do, so here we are Wednesday, and so we started our fast last night. Right here, right? So 115, and then 24 hours down to 91. But if we back up, so this is when we were doing our show on Monday, right? And so at that point, I had fasted for about 24 hours, and then kind of broke the fast right here, right? Started the fast back there. But prior to that, right? So here is, right there, that is the carrot cake. You guys remember that story? If you've not seen that yet, go back and watch that. You'll get a kick out of that. Okay? And so here we are into our fasting window, and we are a little bit over 24 hours now. Excited to see where we're going to be in terms of our ketones tomorrow. All right. So coming up later this week, that is actually on Thursday. What's today? Today was Tuesday. So Wednesday, Thursday. So, no, today's Wednesday. So tomorrow night. I missed a day. So tomorrow night will be our community meetup. Remember, we have that once a month, and that is once a month on the fourth Thursday of the month. And let me get over and grab the link, and I'll put that in. And you guys hear that? You may have heard that little pop that came up there in a minute. Teresa, Jennifer, I did that for you, right? I set that up for you from our last community meeting that says, hey, that's my time. That's our time. So we're a little bit over our time right now. But hey, let's do this really quickly. All right, so here's the link. If you've not already done so, go ahead and sign up for that. That's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for our monthly community meetup, and we'll go through that. Want to say, Teresa's laughing. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. Hey, by the way, thank you for all of you who interacted with us during our anniversary on last Friday, the 16th, 4-year anniversary for the channel. If you've not seen that, go ahead and watch that. We had a lot of shout outs that came through from the creators that were in the space. We'll do our check-in. We'll do our community meetup tomorrow. We'll do our check-in as we move through the rest of the week. On Sunday, of course, we have our This Week in Review, so make sure you pay attention to that as we move into our recast for the week that starts at 6 o'clock. Our challenge for this month is to find a week, and we're running out of time, right? Find a week where you are not taking in any added sugar, right? No added sugar. That is our challenge for this month. Okay, and that doesn't go away, but we may have you come back and do that next month. But this month, the challenge is 1 week where you're not taking in any added sugar. So no candy, cookies, no sodas, and so on and so forth. If you drink coffee, this is the time to drink that black coffee. Okay, so no added sugar to the food. Awesome. As always, I want you to remember our call to action here on the show. Number one, when you show up, join the challenges. Don't just let those challenges happen. You want to make sure that you are taking part in the challenges. They are the things that we're using as tools to help us learn and implement the things that we're learning in our education. Number two, tell your story. Now, let us know where you are. Like we've been sharing that they're fasting, their blood sugar, as Steve put in earlier, the weight changes that they've had, the improvement they've had in the A1C and blood sugars and so forth. Share your story, because when you share your story, others see that and they know that they can do it. If you can do it, we can do it as well. And when we see challenges that you're having, let us know those as well, because we can rally around you and let you know that you're not alone. And then we know we're not alone because we are able to support you in the community. And then invite a friend. Let them know, hey, I have something that you can use to improve your metabolic health. Right? Send them a link. Watch the show with them. Send them a clip. Send them something, and you can be a voice for change in your community, on your job, at your home, in your doctor's office, wherever you find yourself. There are over 1 billion people on the planet right now that are diabetic or pre-diabetic. You can be a voice for change. And all of that comes as we work to remember that we have unlimited potential, and we can tap into that potential by education, empowerment, and encouragement, which is our triple E formula for success, right? We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We're walking through, y'all, the 3 pillars for reversing diabetes. That is decrease insulin, suppress appetite, and reduce our sugar intake. As always, I'm happy to be here with you. Always glad that I'm in this space. Join us for our community meetup tomorrow and for our check-in as we move into the rest of the week. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. Good night, everybody.